when I was a kid, we moved pretty often. Every couple of years, if not more, we moved to a new house. Pretty much we stayed in the same town, and then then we moved like a town over, same county. But we moved a lot, better house, and you know how it is. And then, after I'd moved halfway across the country, in my 20s, my parents and Mary Ellen moved to a different state. So when I went back to visit, I just said I'd go back to visit my family, and people are, oh, you're going home. I'm like, no, it's not really home. I mean, the house has familiar stuff in it and familiar people, but it's not home. I never lived there. And at least I had a hometown, even if I didn't have a home house. And you think about kids who grew up with a parent in the armed forces. Goodness gracious. My dear husband, people ask him, so where are you from? And he's like, Army base, the world, is the answer. He can't even say USA because he spent 3 years in Germany, right? And there can be a sense of disorientation with this kind of life, but there's also a great freedom because we know that you get to make your home. And we realize that home is not a sole physical place, but a state of mind that is created and nurtured. Of course, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of your favorite things too, but that's not really what makes it home, right? And so this is Palm Sunday, the day traditionally that we commemorate Jesus arriving in Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. And it's the beginning of Holy Week, which, of course, works us up to Easter, the big day, next Sunday. It's actually not about the auction. That's not why everybody celebrates it, but I think that's why we should celebrate it. I'm just saying. So, now, for Jerusalem wasn't Jesus' home. That's not where he was from. But it was still a coming home. Because Jerusalem was the center of Jewish life. It was where the temple was, and those of you in the Bible class know how important that was. And you might know that even if you weren't in the Bible class. Anyway, and it was a very important and sacred place to be. In Keep It True Lent, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, wrote, Jerusalem is the abiding consciousness of spiritual peace, which is the result of continuous realizations of spiritual power tempered with spiritual poise and confidence. That was a lot of words. We'll say it again. Jerusalem is the abiding consciousness of spiritual peace, which is the result of continuous realizations of spiritual power tempered with spiritual poise and confidence. So I Rachelized it to make it a little less wordy. And that is, Jerusalem is peace, which comes from deepening our spiritual power, balanced with poise and confidence. So Jesus entering Jerusalem represents our unfoldment and preparation into being our best spiritual / Christ selves. Whatever word you want to call it. In other words, coming home to ourselves. And that seems like a good thing. I like that idea of coming home to being our best, who we are. Now, some of you may be familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert. She's written a whole bunch of very good books, bestsellers. And what might be her most famous, at least up to this point, is a memoir of self-realization called Eat, Pray, Love. And she went on a worldwide tour for a year, finding herself, is what this book is about. And she was talking with an interviewer a while after this book had made a big splash, and she thought it was, I don't think baffled was the right word, but was sort of amazed that so many people had decided that for their own realization they wanted to have what she had, so they actually were going and doing the things that she had done, including, you know, going to India to find the gurus and all the different pieces of the puzzle that she had done. And she said, you know, if you want to go and stay in an ashram in India to find yourself, that's a great thing to do. She's like, but I wasn't saying that you needed to do that. That was how I had my experience of finding myself or going deeper. You can do that in your own backyard. You don't have to throw out everything and travel the world to find yourself. You can do it right at home. And I agree. Of course I agree, because I told you. And that's what's so great about walking on the spiritual path, because you don't have to do it in a particular way. The only rule is to do it. Sure, we have lots of advice and strategies. We've got 1 million books and 1 million videos on YouTube and 1 million sermons, probably more than that, that will tell you what you're supposed to do. But the fact is, you still have to do it. That's the most important part. And do it whatever is your right way. And your journey is your own journey, whether you go to India or Cleveland or your living room. It's really all up to you. I don't know why Cleveland. It just seemed like a good one to throw in there. So, because Palm Sunday is about coming home to a holy place, I'm sure many of you have had a feeling of coming home or of belonging when you visited somewhere new, or you met someone new and you just clicked. For me, Anchorage feels like home. I can't get over it. It's one of those long-term love affairs. Even as my driveway was flooding from all the runoff, I still thought it was awesome. It was even more awesome when the guys from the city came and fixed the drains. See, gotta love Anchorage. On a Saturday. Anyway, we know what that feeling of coming home feels like. Hopefully all of you have had that experience at some point, and hopefully more than once. So this is the Jerusalem feeling, the feeling of coming home. This Jerusalem feeling is even better, because it's coming home to our spiritual truth of who we really are. So when we come into our spiritual peace and power, we're home. That's what the Jerusalem feeling is. It's a journey we choose. We don't have to. We can stand outside the gates and the walls and do our thing and just sort of hang out there. Or we can choose to walk through the gates and take the journey and make the commitment. You can choose. We know. We've all probably taken at least a few moments of deciding to hang out outside the gates. I know that I have dilly-dallied there at least once before. It takes work to make a commitment. But this is what the season of Lent is about. And I know we haven't talked about Lent a whole lot, but it's a time of preparation and transformation. It's the time where we realize what's getting in our way, what's keeping us from walking through the gates. and releasing it. And that's why I always recommend thinking about what habits or beliefs that you want to release for Lent instead of surface things like chocolate, coffee, or donuts, or whatever. I mean, that's fine, but that's not what's going to bring you spiritually home. But what if you released a feeling of unworthiness? Ooh. Well, that's something sizzly, right? What if you released fear or not, a feeling of lack? Now we're getting somewhere, right? That's way more interesting than getting rid of chocolate. And chocolate's good for you if you eat dark chocolate. So, never fear, even though Lent is about to be over and those people who have been keeping themselves away from all the goodies are really excited that Lent is almost over. It's okay, because we get to do this process of realizing there's something we need to release to be able to come home more to who we truly are. Isn't only about Easter. This is just the time that we tell the story. This is the time where we remember and focus. So we do this once a year, but we should be doing it all the time, right? So, when we notice we have a habit or a belief that's not in alignment with who we really are, we get to work on releasing it. And that's why we have this whole season of Lent, because it takes 40 days, not counting Sundays, so it's actually longer than that. It takes a while. 40 whatevers means
as long as it takes.
As long as it takes. Good job. So it takes as long as it takes to release the stuff that we don't want to do anymore. So even if we're doing Lent, we started on Ash Wednesday, we may take a while. Some of those misbeliefs, they're really hard in there. It takes some serious work, serious commitment. Sometimes you just want to dilly-dally outside the gates, right? So much easier to be in my drama, but it's not in the long run. It just feels like it sometimes, right? So each time we make that choice, we decide to let go of one of these incongruities. Even if we end up picking up later, probably pick up less of it later, hopefully. Right? Whenever we let go of one of these incongruences, we come closer to home. We come closer to our best selves, our Christ selves. So, we're entering what many call Holy Week. I, of course, say all places and all times are holy. But we'll go with it, Holy Week. I invite you in this time. This is a time of preparation, right? So let's take that extra time and contemplate the Jerusalem. Contemplate Jerusalem as the abiding consciousness of spiritual peace. The Jerusalem, the physical Jerusalem in our world right now could use all the spiritual peace it could use right now. So there's a consciousness for us to put our focus on, both within our inner Jerusalem and in the world. Let's shift our consciousness to one of abiding peace. That's hard work, but we didn't come here because we weren't ready for hard work, right? I have high confidence in you, can you tell? So what could be more holy in this Holy Week than awakening to that Jerusalem? Even if it's just the glimmer of vision on the horizon of where you want to go. That's okay, that's something. You just keep walking towards that. So we don't have to go somewhere special to find enlightenment, except within. You don't have to do spiritual practice in a particular way, except to do it, and do it often. You don't even have to list the names of where you grew up to know the feeling of home. So come home.